start. So the topic that I've taken today is statistics, because this statistics plays a major role in complete data science field. Statistics is something the whole data science has started in some time, and now it has excelled so much that we have other technologies, other things are coming up, like machine learning algorithms, which are very different than statistics. But for somebody to get into data science, it's very important for them to understand statistics from the very basic. Before I actually jump into statistics, I would like to mention few details about data science and what exactly data science is, because it's the most hyped word. Probably the data scientist, data science, whatever word around, revolves around these terms is most hyped is current centuries, and people are misinterpreting it. Though we have BI practices, which is business intelligence, somehow people get a little confused about what analytics of BI is both same or it is different. BI is something, it actually started with, let's say, every organization started maintaining a database, and whatever they do, they started saving it. So at some point of time, they started feeling that, we have accumulated a lot of data. What actually we should do about it? Do with the data. This business intelligence came into picture, wherein they started analyzing the data, how the data was, what are the patterns, what kind of data we have, can we draw some insights, what the data tells me about the organization. So it gives you detailed analysis or insights from the past data that you have. Now the question is, we understood what our past is. Can we improve our future with the past data? So that business intelligence cannot do. So in that case, we stepped forward and we talked about the data science. Now, data science combines a lot of technologies together, a lot of areas, a lot of fields. It starts with BI also, which we called it as a descriptive statistics or descriptive analysis, exploratory analysis, pattern recognition. There are a lot of things, a lot of words which were given, which generally says we first understand the past data. That's one phase of the whole data science procedure, or you can talk about the whole product cycle of the whole analysis. We always start with that. So, and then we go a step forward, that we think about, now we have the data, now what should we do? We have understood how my data is, then we start cleaning it. Now we do a pre-processing of the data and we clean the data. It's our duty to understand what are variables do I need for my analysis. I need to understand the business problem. According to that, I select the variables. If I don't have all the variables, then I might need to create few variables. It all depends upon, it all comes with your experience, what major type of problems you have solved, what versatile problems have you solved. According to that, you will have that idea that what kind of variables can I create. So that comes under your pre-processing or the data preparation phase. Once you're done with that, then actual analytics comes in, wherein we're trying to predict the future. So that's what an extra thing that we have in data science. That's why the analytics is being quite high, because everybody wants to know future. Even as an individual, we always go to astrologer to look at what is going to be, in next year or year comes ahead. So the organization also looking at, but here we're giving them some accurate predictions on the past data with some math around it. We have the accuracy level, we have the error percentage, we test the predictions frequently, many more times. So the prediction that the data science gives is more accurate than a random prediction or an astrology prediction. So that's one step ahead a data science goes. And then once we have the predictions, yeah.
So you'll be explaining our other slides also, right?
Yeah, I'm just giving you the basics understanding. We can go ahead with the statistics as well. Uh, um, so in this whole process of data science, statistics is something which plays a major role, which comes under your exploratory analysis also. It comes under your model building also. So when we talk of this basic statistics, when we begin, we need to understand what are the type of statistics do we have. We have inferential, descriptive, these type of studies which I'm going to explain. We also need to understand the type of data that we consider. there are certain measures that we look at while we try to understand the data. What are the distribution? What is the distribution of the data? What is the mean, median, mode? Why we actually look at mean, median, mode? Why do we look at the position measures? Why we look at the dispersion measures? What do we mean by skewness, kurtosis? It is the basic thing when we actually start analyzing the data or to understand the data. These are the basic steps we generally see. So what else types of statistics do we have? Now, what in a nutshell, if I say what generally statistics is we can talk it as a procedural rule which can be applied to any massive data, bigger data, smaller data, any kind of data, and make some sense out of it. We understand, we say what we can draw some conclusion, we can draw some insights of the data, some procedures, some functions, some formulas, some methods that we apply. So these all combine together and call it as statistics. Now we need to understand there are two aspects of statistics. There is a population and there is a sample. We need to always understand what a population is, what a sample is. The population is something we talk about the whole world population. We can think about that. Now, if I want to do some test or some analysis, let's say, for example, I take a very simple example so that you understand. Is I'm interested to find out the passing percentage generally in a general third grade students, in a school. What generally or average marks the two students score. So it's very difficult for me to gather the whole population data in a whole world. You have, infinite or thousand numbers of schools. You have a lot of students. It's difficult for me to travel whole world and get the data. So in that case, we talk about a sample. So from the whole population, we take a sample. How? I need to be little unbiased why I take the sample. Or let's say I will consider the major continents, and then from there the major cities. In the major cities, I might look at 5 schools per city, and I have a data which is quite spread over the world. I have took out some sample from all over the world. So now this is my simple sample. Okay, so now I will make some predictions over the sample and then I will generalize it back to the population. So I have the whole population, I have a cycle that will understand. So I am starting with the population. From there I have drawn out some sample. I've drawn some sample. In the sample I will do my analysis and I have some predictions, some predictions or some research study I will do. And then I will generalize it back to the population. Okay, so because it's difficult for me to do the analysis on the whole population, that's why I need to take a sample. But that sample that I take should be quite reasonable. It should have all the flavors of the population. It should not only be biased. Okay, I am looking at average marks third grade students get. I should not only be talking or taking the samples from India. That would be very biased. If I'm talking of the whole population, I need to take it from every country or every continent, or that way. I need to be more unbiased while I take the sample. That's one way we start. So now in the current situation, we don't do it this way. If you go to the very systematic way, studied way, so we do it this way. But when we talk of an industrial application, the current way that we work is we have a huge data. So that data is already from the sample. So we consider that as my population. So while I make any prediction, I have a sample of it that I call a training set. And rest data that I left out, we consider that as a test set. So we have a training set and we have a test set. So we do all conclusions, we do all interpretation or model on the training set that data, and then we test it over the test data, and then we see what is the accuracy. So this is the way it's been happening in the industry level these days. So we need to be very clear what a population means and what the sample means when we generally talk about a statistics purpose. Then secondly, there are two types of statistics that we do. Is descriptive statistics. When I have taken sample from my population. Yes.
Yeah, I can see only your first slide.
now we're coming to the types of statistics. So there are generally two types of statistics. One is the descriptive statistics and the second is the inferential statistics. The descriptive statistics is something from the population I've drawn out some part, some sample data. Now in the sample data, it's very important for me to understand the data. What is the distribution of the data? How are the variables segregated? What is the nature of the data? Is there a missing value? There's no missing value. What is the mean, median, mode of each variable? I need to do some variable analysis. So that understanding my data, understanding my past behavior of the data is what we call as descriptive statistics. Once we understand that and then we make some inference, then I'm making some inference of the population. I have a sample, I said I can easily, let's say, I go back to my example that I'm talking of finding out the average score that a third year student might score. I have taken a sample, I can easily find out the average score. So now that's the average score for my sample. But is that the same score? I can say it is for the population also? No, right? That might be different. So now I'm making some inference for the population. So when I make some inference, I cannot give you the exact value. I will always give you some interval, okay? So now, let's say for example, from the sample, I say 72.5 is the average score sample from the sample a third year student might score. But if we take it back to the population and making inference or predicting the population mean, then I would say probably it would fall under 62 to 80 or probably 90. The population mean will fall between that number. Okay, so I am not giving exact value, but I am giving you a lower and the upper bound also. I'm giving you a bigger interval where I will also give you a confidence level. Okay, I am 90% confident that the population mean will fall under that particular interval that I've given you. So all this process that I am doing, inferencing or predicting the value from the sample is what we call the inferential statistics. Okay. So when we generally talk about the statistics, the simple thing which comes into mind is statistics all about mean, median, mode. Yeah, that's what we generally start with. I have a variable. I'm talking about the mean, population size, sum. So there's some notation that we talk about. So there is a mean, a mu, which is called mean. Then is a capital N that we talk about. The capital N represents the population size, and a small n represents the sample size. Similarly, a mu indicates the population mean that I am predicting or inferencing out of the sample, and the sample mean is always denoted as x bar. So that's a standard notation which you will follow everywhere around, whatever book you take, whatever site you go, wherever you reference, is the same notation that you will find everywhere. Okay. So now when we are taking out an inference, I am not only taking one variable. Now when we talk about a data, when you talk about data, you have a tabular structure in your mind. So I would have 10 variables and probably 1,000 rows. So now when I am making any inference, so I will consider all the variables. I will consider each variable as a component that will add to the prediction value that I am going to give. So there are certain type of variable that we consider. So when you talk about a general data, you will have a numeric variable, you have a string variable, or you talk about a character variable. So we don't take character variable into analysis. We segregate the character variable into multiple categories also. So here we have two type of variable. Either it has to be a quantitative variable or it has to be a qualitative variable. The quantitative variable is something we call a numeric variable that you have in your data, which is continuous, which has a discrete value, probably from the range of 0 to 50, and it has discrete values in between. And then we have a qualitative variables, which are your repetitive values. For example, you have a variable which says the gender, so it will have male or female. Okay, so now male and female is something which is repeating. In the data, only these two values will be there and it is going to repeat every time. So we might have 40 times of male and 50 times of female. It could be a possibility. So these variables which repeats itself, which has some level of unique values, those values are called qualitative variable, and those are also called as categorical variable in this data science language. The categorical variable can be two type again, which is your ordinal, nominal, and also be in your string type or in a numeric type also. Let's say, for example, I have a gender which says male and female, M-A-L-E, and female, F-E-M-A-L-E, which is a string but is repeating, hence I'm saying it is a category variable. And it could be also possible that I might have 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I also might have a category variable which says 1, 2, 3, 4. Either first city, second city, third city, fourth city. It could be anything, but it's a number: 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 number. But it's again repeating in the data. So that also comes under categorical, which is again two type. One is a string type, one is numeric type. But still we consider it on qualitative data. It's not the numeric. If it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's not a numeric data. It's not a quantitative data. It's again a qualitative, because it is repeating. The values are repeating again and again. So now under that we have ordinal and nominal. Now ordinal is something which has an order to it. So now when I'm talking about a variable which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it is repeating, so it has an order, that 1 is first, and then second, and then third, and then fourth. It has some order to follow. But when I'm talking of another variable which is male and female, so there is no order. Male can come first or female can come first. So there is no order. So when there is no order in the level of the variables, so that is called as your nominal variable. When there is some order, it is called as ordinal variables. So categorical variables is difficult to understand. When you start practicing, once you start dealing with those variables, you understand well. But it's very important for you to understand the difference between your ordinal and the nominal variables. Because there are a lot of times I've seen people, they get confused and they misinterpret the nominal variable as the character variable, because we don't consider character variable into analysis. If it's let's say if it's a name of the customer, so we might not add that into our analysis, because that will not have anything. We can only keep it for the uniqueness of the rows, or we can only keep it to merge the data to find uniqueness of the data. We can keep it, but it will not add to the analysis. Only the data which is different other than this variable can be considered. So sometimes these character variables and these nominal variables, people tend to confuse. So we need to understand what is a nominal variable, what is a character variable, what is a numeric variable, and what all we should consider, what all we should not consider in the analysis. And then we talk about the central tendency. So when I have understood the data, I have understood, okay, I need to do some descriptive analysis on the data, I have understood what type of variables I have taken and how many variables I have, then I will start understanding each variable one by one. So we will look at the mean of each variable. Why it's so important to find out the mean of the variable is, let's say I taken a variable called age. Let's say in my data there is a variable called age, and I am considering the people of third grade students. So I would have something in my mind that third grade student, probably the age, I'm not too very sure, but hypothetically I'm saying that third grade student age would be something close to probably 5 years to I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 years is the bracket should be for third grade students, right? So I would expect the value should be between these intervals probably. So those are the expected values that I will look at the age for this particular analysis, right? So we look at the central tendency. We also need to find out the mean, and we see how far the mean is. Is it lying at the center of the data, or is something here and there? No, we are generally trying to find one representative number for the whole data. It is also with the fact you look at you go to any school, you look at any class, you have a class monitor for every class. So when somebody has to address something to the particular class, they don't go and tell or talk to each and every student. They only pass the information to your class monitor. because that person is a representative of the whole class, right? So same in the data, when you talk of one variable, let's say age, so I need to find out one representative. I cannot say, okay, this variable has a range between this and this, but I would say, okay, the mean is something 8 years, let's say, for example. So on an average, third grade students are of age 8, so I'm finding one representative out of the data. So that's why it's important for me to see the mean for each variable. So there are certain tendencies, that's why it is called central tendencies, because I'm trying to find out the middle value. I'm not looking at the lower or the higher range, but I'm looking at the average middle value. To look at the middle value, there are three things that we look at. One is mean, second is the median, which actually parts the you have to order the data in ascending or descending order, and then you pick out the middle value. So that is one way of finding out the middle value. Or if the data is categorical data, that's a male or female, then in that case finding out the middle value is difficult. So in those cases we look at mode. Sorry, probably mode slide is not here. Okay, so in that cases we look at the mode. Mode is how frequently one value is appearing. Let's say if it's male and female, how many times male is appearing, how many times female is appearing. Then the central value or the representative of that particular variable, I will take it as female or male. Let's say if female is appearing 50 times, male is appearing only 30 times. So the representative of those particular variable will become female. So that's how we take the central value. So those central values are called central tendencies, because I'm finding those measures out of the data. So once we understand what is the central or the representative value for each variable, we look at, okay, now let's say age, let's go back to the example that I'm talking about, a third grade student and the variable that I'm interested in the age, and my, for example, my mean came as 8 years. So I need to also see how far each other points are from the particular mean. That's one way of measure that we look at. We also look at, we divide the whole data into certain parts, and we see what is the ratio of the student that fall on each part. What part is the denser area and what part is the lighter area. So whenever we draw any data, we always consider it as a bell curve. So this is the bell curve that you will see everywhere when you talk about statistics. So that's actually a normal curve, because that's what we hypothesize, that each variable that I'm dealing with is a normal variable. We'll cover normal variable later. Right now it's a little higher side. We'll talk about normal variables later. But for the time being, you understand that whenever we take any variable, we do any analysis, we talk about, we assume that each variable that I'm considering is a normal variable, and we draw a bell curve. When we talk about bell curve, we say the central part that it's coming is my mean. And we talk about the mean. Why I have taken mean as a representative? Because majority of the values are very close to the mean. That's why this is a good representative of the data. So then once we draw this bell curve, we part the data into certain parts. So there is a type of division that we do. Either we do it 100 partitions. So this is what we're talking about. Percentile is we're dividing the data into 100 parts, and we'll analyze each part and see what is the ratio or what is the denseness of the data. What are the data points falls under the first part, second part, third part, fifth part, fourth part. What is the denser area? Probably the area near to this mean would be more denser, the area towards the extreme corners. So that's how those are quite chapped outside. So, but there could be a possibility that when you divide the data, unseen data, you divide it and you find that the 100 percentile is more denser. So probably we see, okay, so my data is not normal. I have a lot of values which are on the higher side. Then what about the lower values, which is 2, 3, 4? Probably those are misinterpreted or misrecorded, or maybe those values doesn't belong to this particular analysis. So we need to look at those data. That's how we analyze the data. So that's why percentiles are very important. So there are three types of things that we look at. Percentiles, wherein we divide the data into 100 parts. Then we look at quartiles, wherein we divide the data into 4 parts. So these are the major, most important. Like we use quartiles um, very frequently. When we generally need to look at the partition for data, we don't go to deciles or percentiles. We generally look at the quartiles, and that's enough for us. But for the understanding, you should know what other percentiles are available. So quartiles is something we divide the data into 4 parts. So if you look at the 25th percentile will be the first quartile, because that's 1/4 of the data. Then the 50th percentile is the middle part, that's half of the data, is your quartile 2, that is also called median, because that's also taking the middle point. And then 75th percentile, if you look at here, we divide the data in 25, 25, 25, 25. So this is the first 25, then the 50th, then 75, and then the 100th percentile. So that's how this Q3 is equal to P75. And then we also have this deciles. Now deciles is something we divide the data into 10 parts, and we same analyze it. So now your D1 will become P10, your D5 will become P50, and Q2. So we don't use D and P more, we use quartiles more. So that's how we see the divide the data. So that is called the measure of positions of the data. And then this is a simple representation of the quartiles. If you plot, there's something called box plot. You use this function, you plot the data with the box plot, you get this kind of variable, this kind of plot. So now this plot says is this is the median, the line that you have in between, it's called the median. So that means my data, the ranging, it's ranging from 0 to 10, but the median lies somewhere at 4, right? So it is very far from 10. It is quite far from 10. So my data is quietly bulky towards the 4. So it's not normal actually. It is not a normal distribution. And then we look at the first quartile lies at 2, and the third quartile lies at close to 6. Okay, so range is higher, and an interquartile range that if I look at is 6 minus 2, so that we'll talk about later. So that's how it is the 75th percentile. It's also called the quartile 3 and the quartile 1. And this is the 97.5 percentile. This is the 2.5 percentile. That's how the data you get. You understand the data, how the data segregation here, whatever data I'm looking at, the variable that I'm looking at. But these are the univariate analysis. Now, univariate analysis is something that you analyze each and every variable separately. There's something called multivariate analysis also, wherein you analyze all the variables at one go. That's on the higher side, but we start with the univariate analysis first. So then we talk of the measure of dispersion. Now what measure of dispersion is that in the previous slide we look at what is the central representation, then each portion of the data, what is the denser part or the lightest part, what portion of data is there in each parts, first quartile, second, third, fourth, each quartile, what is the part. So that's how we looked at. And then I'm looking at the dispersion. Now dispersion is something I have understood that's the middle point, and I have to look at all each other values of the class or the ages of other students. How far are those ages from the central representation that I've taken? That is 8. For the same example of grade 3 student, and I'm analyzing the age for them for that analysis. So if the mean that comes as 8, then what are the other values? How far are those values from the middle point? So to look at that point is something we look at either by range, or we look at semi-interquartile range, or we look at variance or standard deviation. So range is something is very lessly used. Semi-interquartile range is still used, interquartile range is still used, but the major thing that we use even these days is the variance and standard deviation. Going forward, you will see a lot of formulas, lot of other terms, a lot of other concepts which only revolves around your variance and standard deviation. So variance and standard deviation are generally the values, unit values, how far the data is on an average, how far the data is from your mean. It is generally taken as each variable, each value is being subtracted from the mean, and we have taken the square and we have averaged it. That is your variance. And if I take a square root of that, that becomes my standard deviation. So both are the same thing, but why we generally take a standard deviation, why it is called standard? Because I am subtracting it from the mean, I am getting the unit as the same as mean, then I am squaring it. So my unit is increasing to the square power, and if I say that as my values, it is more, the error seems to be exaggerated more because the squared power of that. So that's why we take a root of that, so that we take it back to the same unit of the mean. That's how the interpretation becomes more easy. That's why we have a standard deviation, and hence it's almost standard value. So what do we mean by a range? It is nothing but we subtract the smallest score from the highest score. If I have an age, we'll take the minimum age that I have in the whole data. I will take the highest age that I have in the whole data and then subtract it. I will say this is the range of data I have. Let's say the minimum is 7 or highest is 10. I will have the 3. So I have my range is 3 units. From 7 to 10. This is the 3 unit my range. So the interquartile range or the semi-interquartile range is something we're subtracting from the quartiles. Let's say if we go back to the box plot. So my range would be, I'm subtracting 10 from 0 from 10. So this is what my range is. When we talk about the interquartile ranges, I will subtract this 2 from the 6. This value that I'm talking about. This portion is my interquartile range, and if I divide it by 2, I will get the semi-interquartile. It will tell me what is the range of my data, how the data is being segregated or being spread out all over the space, and how far it is from the mean. And then we have this variance that I've already explained, that this is, I'm subtracting each value from the mean, I'm taking a square, adding all of them, I'm taking a mean. This is again in finding an average of the squared subtractions.
This is your Tableau interface. Now, in the left-hand side, there are multiple options to connect to database. Right? In the middle interface, you can see the visualizations, whatever you are creating. Right?